So, I fucked up. I made an entire half-hour long video, and the audio was not working, and I thought it was a pretty good rant, and now I have to recapture that again. And it's very fucking annoying, but it is what it is. So, I will try my best. I will use my acting skills to try and authentically go on a rant again about what I was talking about. And I was basically going in depth about how I deleted the dating apps on my phone today for the umpteenth time. But this time, I think it might be the last time. And I've said that to myself multiple times before, only to, invariably go back to it again, reinstall them again. Jesus, I had a lot of ginger beer. And think like, oh, this time's going to be different. This time's going to be different. This time's going to be different. And each time, not only is it, no, it is different. It is different. Yes, it is different each time. And by different, I mean it's less and less compelling each time. And I think this time is just like falling in that trend as well, where I think this is like the least compelling I've ever had, least compelling experience I've had on them. And that's kind of like the trajectory of it. And I've kind of realized how when I am bored of something, that is almost always the death knell for whatever sort of cyclical habit I have. Sort of like how, like in the sense of like when I was a lot of times before when I like deleted the dating apps was just because I was frustrated, but like frustration still has passion in it. It's kind of like why a toxic relationship is much more durable than a boring relationship. If you want to kill a relationship, make it boring. Toxic, frustrating, ooh, that's got passion to it. That'll keep going. It's because, frustration has investment. That's it. Whenever I got frustrated with like a dating app, I'd be like, oh man, I'm just having such a lame time on this, like I went on like some dates or something, and like maybe sometimes they were fine, but then other ones were like lame, or like I was just chatting with people and like, oh, I thought we were getting like good chemistry, but then it whizzled out, and I'm like frustrated that like, oh, at one point they ghosted me or something like that, or like I lost interest at some point and ghosted them, like whatever. But it was always kind of like, oh, there was like this sort of frustrated, I don't even know if I'm articulating this right, but there was like some kind of like frustrated like investment in it where I'm just like, I'm still yearning for that like, oh, that good moment. I'm still chasing that like ideal dating experience. I'm committed to it. And I'm like, I still have hope. I have hope that it's going to happen. And this last time, I completely was just disabused of that notion. I installed it like purely out of just like boredom and just being like, I totally don't give a shit now. Maybe I'll just like go on a date just purely out of just entertainment, without any naive notions that I'm going to probably find anything worth a fuck out of this. But even that wasn't good enough for me, because like I tried doing it, I started having those same basic conversations again, and I'm just like, you know what? Even as just like a social experiment to just do this purely out of entertainment, just to change things up, it's just not worth it. I just don't fucking care. Like I really don't care anymore. And it's like I took like a month break from the apps, and then I came back to them like on this weekend, just again out of boredom, and I was just like, yeah, I still feel just as bored as I did a month before. I'm done. This is just boring. And I think the reason why, in particular, I've gotten so bored of it is because I've realized that like genuine love has almost nothing to do with most sexual dynamics nowadays. Or maybe it's always been that way, but I can only speak for how it is nowadays. I think it's just been getting worse. That's why I say nowadays. How I feel like most people out in the sexual marketplace, I fucking hate that term, but it is an accurate one as much as I hate it, because that is kind of what it feels like. It does feel like a marketplace. It's people out there just fucking bargaining and wheeling and dealing and trying to sell each other on sexual validation and shit like that. It ain't about making genuine loving connections with people, or very rarely is it. It happens, it does, but it's fucking rare. I don't think most people are really going into it for that. And well, actually, this is the comparison I made on my audio missing video, where I basically kind of realized how I think platonic love is generally much more pure than romantic love, because I think a lot of times people confuse romantic love for romantic addiction. And okay, so the analogy I'd make about this is like, because I mean, they always say that in songs, but it's true. Love is literally a drug, and like any drug, you gotta, use it cautiously and remind yourself it's a drug. Chemicals are fucking with you, and maybe they're fucking with you with the right person, but there's a very good chance they're not. But like I'd compare it to like how, for instance, let's say back in college, or it doesn't even have to be back in college, you had like, maybe, I don't know why I'm saying you, I'm just saying maybe for me, like you could have like a hypothetical, like weed buddy, like your buddy that you go and smoke weed with. You met him at a party, and you guys bonded over weed at the party, and then you kind of just, every time you hang out, you smoke weed with the guy. And you have a good time. He's your weed buddy. You guys like hanging out and smoking weed. It isn't just that like he buys you weed or you buy him weed. You're not mooching off each other, but you just like enjoy the vibes of hanging out with this guy and smoking weed. He's just your weed buddy. But then let's say one of you or both of you decides to get sober, or at least to stop doing weed, and then you hang out with each other and like, oh shit, the thrill's kind of gone. We were just weed buddies. Like, it's kind of awkward. We're okay with each other. Like, we can kind of tolerate our presence, but it just we don't really click anymore. We don't really have that chemistry anymore. Literally chemistry in this case, like the weed chemistry. It's like the lack of the cannabinoids in your brain just made you realize like you two aren't really that compatible. It's the weed that brought you two together. And you don't like necessarily hate each other or anything like that, or even dislike each other. You just kind of realize like, And then so it's just kind of like, well, you kind of drift apart from each other after one or both of you get sober. Or, off weed. I feel like that's a lot of times true with people who date each other. I think, obviously this is not always the case, I'm just mostly a cynic, not completely a cynic. But, there's definitely people that do have really authentically deep, meaningful, long-term loving connections with each other. But I think those people are the types of people that, like, and, it might be a cheesy term, but I think it's a good term, where the people are like, I'm best friends with my romantic partner. And that's the way I think it should be. You should be genuine friends with the person that you want to have a long-term relationship with, in my opinion. But I think a lot of times that's not the case. I think a lot of times people, even in long-term romantic partnerships, are just addicted to each other and justifying their long-term relationship with each other after the fact. And that if it wasn't for that sexual connection with each other, because let's face it, that is what a relationship is. It's sexual. If you take away sex from a relationship, it's not a relationship. If you live with each other, even if you hang out with each other all the time, the best you can be considered are very friendly roommates. That is what differentiates a friendship from a relationship, is sex. It's just sex. I know it sounds like it's kind of whittling it down, but it's true. And it's not like just sex, but it's like also just the chemical buzz you get surrounding that as well. Not just when you're doing it, but even like after the fact. It's that emotional oxytocin or whatever the fuck chemical bond you have to the person in general surrounding the sexual component. And I feel like there's a good amount of people out there that if you were to strip that away from each other, they wouldn't really be friends with each other. Like, I think a lot of times there's even like genuine animosity between people that are like sexually bonded with each other, and I think that's a lot of times what leads to a toxic relationship. It's people that are one of or both of them, most times both of them to some degree, are addicted to each other on an oxytocin sexual component dynamic. But if you took that away, they would like not be friends with each other. Like if you took that away, they would see things clearly. Like especially the person who'd be like on the receiving end of the abuse more so. Sometimes, a lot of times, it's both ways, the abuse, but typically one person receives it more than the other. So the person who's receiving the abuse more than the other would be like, they would just be like, why the fuck am I hanging around this person? They're an asshole. Like, get the fuck away from me. But because they're addicted to them, they're like, oh my God, I'm so infatuated by them. I know they're so bad for me, but I can't quit them. I can't quit them. It's kind of like when like the junkie is like experiencing a drug withdrawal, and rather than just being like, oh, this fucking sucks, I'm never doing this again, they're just like, oh fuck, I feel like crap right now, but like once I stabilize myself a little bit, I'll get another high. And that's kind of like, when you have the shitty moon period before the honeymoon period in a relationship. It's kind of like, oh my god, I feel terrible. They made me feel like shit. Oh my god, we got in a horrible argument. They're being like emotionally abusive to me. But like, oh, when I get over this period or something, or like maybe not even get over it, they'll be like, that actually might even fuel them to want it even more. They'll be like, yeah, I know they're awful for me, but like, I just got to get that honeymoon period back. I got to get my fix of that honeymoon period back, and it kind of makes them almost more desperate for it. And I think that's kind of true with like drug habits. It's like it's the withdrawal that actually makes you more desperate to continue the drug habit. Like if you didn't even have that withdrawal period, I don't think a lot of drugs would necessarily be as no, they definitely wouldn't be as habit forming. That literally is what continues like a lot of hardcore drug addictions. I mean, obviously not all of them are like that. Like weed doesn't quite have that by any means. But like heroin and stuff, that's totally what it functions like. It's the withdrawal that makes you perpetuate the habit. It's that horrible feeling as well as the high of when you're actually high on it. But they both go hand in hand. And I think that that's kind of what it is with these romantic relationships with a lot of people. They're just addicted to each other, but they don't really love each other. You know, they're junkies. They don't really, truly love each other on like a genuine, platonic, soulful level. And I think that's what I am so sort of pessimistic about with like modern dating, is I feel like it's just a landscape of people that are out there with their mindset on getting their next junkie fix rather than trying to find a true, authentic, meaningful bond with somebody. Like that's why there's this whole obsession with like, you know, how can you like have game and, you know, sell yourself in the sexual marketplace, and, you know, how to like just like all these dating techniques and stuff like that. I'm like, fuck all that stupid, vapid horse shit. Like it's just all like used car salesman tactics. I mean, you know, this is gonna make me sound like I'm a fucking socialist. I'm not a socialist. I don't like to. I'm too good for labels. I don't fucking go for any political labels. I mean, I like some aspects of socialism. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. More, the older I get, the less comfortable I am with just being labeled like you're this ideology. It's like, I don't know. I think it's just late. Like this is gonna be like a whole other fucking tangent. But I don't like. Even if I might 90% fall in line with like a certain ideology, I just don't like the notion of like I have to be pigeonholed into this ideology. I don't like when other people do it as well. I think it's fucking lazy. I think it's lazy thinking. I think, you know, and I understand the desire of it. It's easy to go through life when like the majority of your thinking is already done for you by an ideology that you just have to follow and do Simon Says. But it's lazy. You should think for yourself. Don't follow an ideology. Don't be a Democrat. Don't be a Republican. Don't be a socialist. Don't be a capitalist. Don't be any of this stuff. You know, they all have fucking flaws to them. They're all stupid in some way, and they all have, well, maybe not all of them. Conservatism is pretty much mostly shit in my opinion, but I'm sure that there's something, I know there's like some stuff here and there that I can agree with, you know, like, it's a tough one actually. Actually, okay, here, this is an example. Okay, this is one thing I do agree with. I'm really going on a tangent here, but this is connected to what I'm saying. I think this might actually be like my more conservative position. I don't think necessarily that the modern landscape of overt sexual promiscuity and casual sex is really actually a very good thing. I think that it would be nice if people actually took sex more seriously. And I say this as somebody who has done casual sexual stuff before and have realized that it's really incredibly overrated. It's really unfulfilling. It's really not what it's cracked up to be. I mean, I'm not saying casual sex is always a bad thing. No, I don't think so. I think there are instances where people can do it in a totally fine, healthy manner and just really do it, you know, almost just for like the fun of it and have a good experience through and through. I just don't think that's the majority of cases. I think a lot of times people go into casual sex as just sort of like oxytocin junkies or validation junkies. They just do it for some ulterior motive rather than truly authentically enjoying the act of sex with a person that they find attractive. So I think in that case, I am kind of conservative. I think that it is a shame that people rush into relationships too quickly, definitely rush into sex too quickly. It'd be nice. I mean, I'm not going to go as far as be like people should wait before marriage to have sex, because I don't believe in marriage anyways. But like, I don't know, this whole thing of like, oh, you got to like date them, you know, on the third date, you got to go home with them, da-da-da-da-da. Or sometimes people even do it on the first date, which is crazy to me. It's like, which I've done that before, and it's fucking crazy in retrospect. Stupid. Why did I do that? So, like, I don't know. In that sense, there that is one thing I do agree with the conservatives. Even though, ironically, I think a lot of conservatives will preach that and then themselves be full of shit and be going around doing all sorts of like illicit sexual stuff on the side. So, but in principle, I would agree with that. If you are a genuine conservative who does hold to that principle that sex should be a bit more sacred, I would agree with that. So, anyways, but now to go back to sounding like a socialist, I think that a problem with the modern dating landscape, aside from people being too promiscuous, is that I think that I kind of feel like capitalism is sort of like torn its ugly claws into everything, including our bedrooms, in the sense that I don't feel like a lot of times people really view other people as people anymore. They almost view them as like a statistic, as like a transaction, like something to get out of them. This is true also with like a lot of friendships, I think, nowadays, but it's especially bad when it's like the dating landscape. It's kind of like you are a validation unit. You are something I can brag about or feel good about myself in a very primitive, exploitative manner. Kind of like in the sense of like, a lot of times the stereotype is with men, it's just fucking a woman. That's how he gets his validation unit. That's his currency in the sort of capitalism of the dating landscape. With a woman, it's like, oh, can a guy just simply be attracted to me? I mean, I've heard a lot of times women just go on dating apps purely to see how many likes they can get. Or like, oh, can a guy like take me out to dinner? And I mean, yeah, obviously sexual validation can be part of that as well, but I feel like it's not quite as emphasized necessarily with how women approach dating when it's a shallow thing. And it's like, yeah, it's just, I feel like that's just the majority of how it is nowadays, that it's people, generally speaking, don't really go out there so often with the authentic intention of finding a true, meaningful, loving connection with another person that they also want to fuck. And I think that that's how it should be. I think it sucks that like it's so rare that people want to authentically, like healthily bond with somebody on a really like just like as true genuine friends, but it's like, oh, you also happen to be molded in a form that I find sexually appealing. Because that's the thing. It's like, maybe it's good that actually I got my audio cut on the last one because I didn't go into depth in this. But I've realized I have a huge problem with sexuality in general, and this is going to make me come off as maybe quite sex negative. I think sex is invariably a shallow act, always. I think the fact that sex is fundamentally hinged on physical appearance is a huge problem with me kind of being comfortable with it. And I mean, that's not the only thing, obviously, that matters. I mean, obviously, personality matters. I guess your capability obviously matters in bedroom and stuff like that. But fundamentally, what makes somebody attracted to somebody else is, like, there has to be that bare minimum physical requirement. And, you can work on some of that, obviously. Like, you can, work out, go to the gym, make yourself look presentable, get a nice haircut, all that shit. But I think what bothers me is, like, this is going to sound kind of ridiculous, but, like, the fact that if, like, somebody was born with a really, like, awful, like, genetic condition, like, they were born, like, physically deformed, or they were born as, like, a paraplegic, or they just got in an accident and became a paraplegic, or they got in an accident and got physically deformed, or something like that, like they became a severe burn victim or something like that, that is going to lower your value on the sexual marketplace, so to speak. But here's the thing, though. You could still totally be friends with a person like that. 100%. Somebody's physical appearance doesn't necessarily, I mean, it might be a little bit of a hurdle to get over with. You'd have to get used to being around somebody who's, like, really, really physically deformed, like, severely. But you can still totally be friends with somebody like that, for sure. But you're probably not going to find them sexually desirable. Maybe there is some people out there that are anomalies, who are just complete demisexuals. I think that's the right term. Like somebody who only gets aroused by personality alone. I mean, I don't know how authentic that is, but maybe there is somebody out there who's a complete pure demisexual who only cares about personality and that's purely all that arouses them. But like 99% of the population is not like that. I'm not like that, and it sucks. I wish I could only find personality attractive and nothing more. But I mean, first of all, I got a restriction on the fact that I'm a straight guy, so I don't find half the population attractive just off the bat. Sucks, you know. What if I met a guy that I just really, really fucking vibe with? Doesn't matter. He's a dude. He was born with the wrong physical anatomy for me, and that's a physical restriction. But then even then, it's like, yeah, I got physical requirements for what kind of women I find attractive. And, I mean, I'm not like super shallow or anything, but it's still there. And like, yeah, like I just could never find myself in a sexual relationship with like a woman who could have a great personality and be physically deformed, because I just can't. My brain chemistry would refuse to let me do that, and it sucks. And that's kind of my problem I always have with sexuality, is that it's such an intense emotional feeling on something that's based on just genetic favorability, fundamentally, at the end of the day. Like, on the other extreme, the sort of like intense craving one might get for somebody's the other extreme of somebody's like physically deformed, like somebody who's just physically gifted, like a Margot Robbie type or some other beautiful sort of model, and that like, you know, like my brain or another guy's brain, straight guy's brain typically, or even like women will say this, where like, I mean, especially if the woman's a lesbian, obviously, but like, you know, whatever, straight women even. I made my point. Well, people will look at this person, and especially if you're like sexually attracted to women or something, and you look at like a person like Margot Robbie, you'll just get these like surges of like chemicals in your brain that will make you project all these favorable traits on the person that aren't even necessarily there. You'll view them in such an like enamored light and just want to be around them, and like, oh, I'm so attracted and drawn to them, and it'll make them like their essence seem like it's more pure and radiating than it really is. And it's like, dude, they just have nice bone structure. They're not a fucking angel. Not necessarily. I mean, Margot Robbie seems like a really nice woman, so I'm not going to shit on her. But she's a nice woman because she's a nice woman, not because she's fucking hot. Like, you know, if Margot Robbie was a bitch, people would still find her really appealing, though. That's the problem. They'd still be really drawn to her. Maybe less so, especially when they got to know her. But they would still have that aura, that initial aura of desire. And there'd still be a lot of guys that would be lining around the block to date her, even if she was like a total bitch. There'd be guys who'd totally be happily to get in a relationship with her, even if she had a garbage personality, just because she's beautiful. And it's just because you get these like surges of chemicals in your brains. But then, like on the flip side, somebody who has like a 10 out of 10 personality, like a woman with a 10 out of 10 personality but was born in a horribly deformed body, you're just not going to get that. I'm not going to get that buzz out of that person. I'm just not going to get that buzz that I would get out of seeing a Margot Robbie type. And that's a goddamn shame. And there's not really much I can really do about that. It's the way I'm wired, and it's fucking dumb. It's kind of like how I could never force myself to be gay. I can't. I just don't find men attractive. Or my brain, more specifically, my brain doesn't find men attractive. And it sucks. It sucks. Like, what can I do? I wouldn't mind being gay. It would open up my opportunities, and I feel like men are less complicated, generally speaking. I mean, men can definitely do manipulative shit, too. It'd be nice if I was bisexual or gay or something like that. But I'm not. But again, that's not such a big deal, because whatever, you know, there are lots of gay guys out there. But like, again, there's not that many people out there for horribly physically deformed people. And it sucks. It sucks that is like, that romance and love is fundamentally grounded in this shallow beauty contest bullshit. That is like the rite of entry into it. I mean, obviously, you know, a meaningful long-term relationship has to have proper emotional compatibility. I mean, that's what I was going into, where if you really want to have a healthy, proper relationship, you got to be friends with the person. It's just, I think just my point is, it sucks that there's this fucking barricade of genetic favorability that will always be in the way of that. That just being a truly genuine, great person is not enough for like sexual success. I don't know if that made any sense. I think it did. It made sense to me. But, you know, as I said with my video the other day, why am I surprised? We're in a hell world. So of course it's going to be that way. Of course we're going to exist in a reality that, you know, people's sexual desire, one of the most intense and chemically meaningful, although not authentically meaningful a lot of times in my opinion. No wonder that would be tied to something as bullshit as the genetic lottery. Because that is what it is, you know. Margot Robbie, maybe not genetic lottery, genetic poker hand, that's the way I like to put it. Margot Robbie, she got the royal flush. Somebody who was born with a horrible physical deformity, they got like a high 2. Or maybe a pair of 2s, because like at least they have all their arms and legs, hopefully. But like they got like the lowest possible poker hand you can get. But guess what? They didn't do anything to earn that. They just sat at the poker table of life. And the dealer, the cosmos, they just dealt them out. There was no skill involved in that. It was the first hand of the fucking poker round, and Margot Robbie got a royal flush and the other person got a pair of 2s. And then we're gonna just project that she like it's almost like we project that people like that made some accomplishment in their life. Like, oh my god, look at this person. Like, good job on being beautiful. Good job. It's like, it's kind of like why I find it kind of annoying almost. Like, people have like complimented me for my physical appearance. I mean, you can think I don't look like much, whatever. That's your opinion. But like, I've been told enough times that people have said I look handsome. You know, maybe I'm not your cup of tea. But like, sure, okay, I think I look decent enough at least. But like, I hate when people say that to me because like, I didn't fucking do anything for this. Like, sure, okay, I eat fine. I exercise a bit. I take basic hygiene of myself. But like, this facial symmetry, I didn't do anything for it. It's not a compliment. I didn't fucking earn it. Like, I just was birthed from the right womb. That's all I did. That's literally all I did. But it's like to be called beautiful as like a compliment. Like, it's fucking not. Or at least most of the time it's not. I don't know. It's such a bullshit thing to praise somebody for. I mean, okay, this is gonna really sound radical to me. It's almost as ridiculous as like complimenting somebody on their race. It's like you just got born that way. It's like, oh wow, you're white. Bravo on being white. Or you're black. It's like, oh, okay. Oh, you're beautiful. You got nice bone structure. Yeah. Woo, what an accomplishment. I didn't get strangled by the umbilical cord in the room and came out successfully. I guess that's an accomplishment. You know? Or like, oh what, I was the one swimmer who made it into the egg that happened to have at least somewhat favorable traits for me to look like at least moderately attractive. It's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. It's all bullshit. This whole beauty contest shit. And I will say that I hate how this is just getting more and more enforced by just like the way our society is structured. We like worship the fuck out of physical beauty. And you know what? Fuck that shit. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of how much we fucking worship physical beauty because it's just making this problem worse. The fact that we have all these goddamn, you know, okay, maybe it's gonna sound kind of goopy. I was gonna say like how we have all these posters with just hot people on them and just making them look like, yes, look at this hot person. They're awesome. They will sell you clothing and stuff. But you know what? Actually, I'm just being silly now. That's fine. I'm fine with there being hot people selling stuff because, you know, sure, why not? Let's have models selling hot stuff. That's fine. I was just being silly in that one. But I think that we should have that, but still have like the mental wherewithal to realize that it's not that it's just a genetically favored talent to be hot. But it's not something that's earned, and it's not something that deserves undue praise. It should be viewed as the favorable poker hand that it was. And that somebody utilizing their physical attractiveness to be a model in like sort of a advertisement is just somebody who like happened to get the royal flush in a poker hand and just dealt it at the right moment. But nothing more than that. That they aren't somebody who is like an ultra incredible deity who's worthy of like any more praise than somebody who got a lucky shot in life and then just used it. And that's it. Nothing more. That's how I think we should view it. You know, praise beauty, but don't, like, praise the person necessarily just for being hot, because that's fucking dumb. Did that make any sense? I don't know. It made sense to me, though. And again, as always, that's all that matters, because I really just make these videos for me. In my solipsistic, ridiculous ramblings that I have no idea what the fuck is gonna ultimately be the point of, but what's the point of anything? We're all gonna die one day, and the sun's gonna explode and consume this fucked up planet and everybody else with it. And yada yada yada, and nihilism and the void will take us all, and it's all meaningless in the end. And the universe will collapse on itself, and who cares? And then the only thing that will remain will be these almost completely unwatched YouTube videos. That is what shall exist past the end of the universe. For I am God, and you are all my lowly subjects, you non-existent viewers out there. And I think I'm done. Well, that worked out. I was worried I would not have any passion in re-recording this shit, but it ended up actually, in my opinion, I think, being better than my first try. So that's good. Let's just fucking hope the audio actually recorded this time. I think it did, because it's a red light. Anyways, that's that. So long. Farewell. Good night. I bid thee adieu.